Are you an entrepreneur with a business in the United States or the desire to have a business in the United States and you'd like to get a green card through that business? If so, that's what we're going to talk about today. If you've seen some of my other videos, I've talked a lot about what's called the EB2 National Interest Waiver green card case. That case is available for a lot of different kinds of people to self-sponsor their own green card to live and work in the United States. Today, we're going to talk about what it means to file your own EB2 residence case as an entrepreneur and how an entrepreneur case is unique and different than others and how you make a strong case for you as a business owner. My name is Kaylani Villafranca. I'm an immigration attorney and I help my clients who are investors, entrepreneurs, high achievers, and other professionals and families from all over the world come to the United States and live and work here to grow their careers in the United States. So if you want to learn more about the EB2 National Interest Waiver for entrepreneurs, stay tuned. That's what we're talking about today. We're going to do a quick review of the EB2 National Interest Waiver case so that we all know what we're talking about when we get into a little more detail. Then we're going to talk about what does it look like to prove the different elements of that kind of case as an entrepreneur in the United States. And then we're going to talk about what you want to do to take the next step for your case, depending on where you are in the process. So first step, what is an EB2 green card case? So an EB2 is the category of permanent residency for a person whose work is in the national interest of the United States. And there are other ways to get an EB2, but we're just focused today on these national interest cases. You can self-sponsor your own green card. That means you don't need an employer if we can show that either you are a person of extraordinary ability or you have an advanced degree, so something higher than college or university level. That's the first step. Then we need to show that you have a project that you're going to be pursuing in the United States. The project can be a job or it can be your own business. And then we have to show that your project is in the national interest of the country. And we do that in any number of ways that we'll talk about today. And then last but not least, we prove that you, in fact, have the skills to make your project successful. And as an entrepreneur, you usually do have a background that shows you can be successful in the future. Okay, so first step first, for the National Interest Waiver green card case, you either have to have an advanced degree or be a person of extraordinary ability. The extraordinary ability cases are much harder to win. So I would highly encourage you, if you don't already have an advanced degree and you're thinking about this in the future, to think about whether or not that might be a good next step for you. If you already have an advanced degree from the United States, we're good. If you already have a degree from another country, your first step is to get your degree evaluated. There are various companies that will do degree evaluations, and they will look at your foreign degree from whatever country where you got your degree, and they will say, based on US educational standards and metrics, if your degree is equivalent to a postgraduate degree in the United States. If it's not, we don't have a case unless you're also a person of extraordinary ability. And so you really need to know that before moving forward. And often clients will come meet with me and I'll say, I think we have a good case here, but we don't know if you're a postgraduate person or not based on your Mexican degree or your Spanish degree or your degree from India. So we need to get that evaluated. So that's step one. Step two is, what's your project? So we've shown that you're a person who has an advanced degree or extraordinary ability. Next, what's your project? You have to have a project. These cases are forward-looking. They are not backwards-looking. We do not care about your success in the past. It's helpful. It will be relevant to support various parts of this application, but it's not the case. You cannot stand on your merits alone on this kind of case. You have to have a project that you are proposing to undertake in the United States and able to get your green card through the EB2 National Interest Waiver. What does that mean? What's a project? You could have a job offer from a U.S. employer. The employer does not have to be the sponsor, but they can be the sponsor in this kind of case. But a specific job offer from a U.S. employer. Now, that's not always the strongest case, and we'll explain why in a minute, but it can certainly be workable. What I see most often for my clients who are entrepreneurs is that they either already have a business that they are running in the United States, or they have a business plan and are very close to opening a business. A speculative idea of what you might do in the future is also possible, but it is less of a robust case at that point because it could be harder to convince immigration that you really are going to do this thing if you've taken no steps towards getting it started. So let's talk about you in the case of being an entrepreneur with an already existing US business or taking active steps towards opening one. So that usually looks like people who are here on E visa status or another status that has allowed them to set up a company and get it up and running. Some students during their OPT can start their own business. And so this can be a way for you to start your own business, run it in the US, and then perhaps your business is influential enough to be able to sponsor your own green card. And we have a lot of options. There are a lot of paths that people take to get to the EB2 National Interest Waiver green card application. As an entrepreneur, you need a project. Your project can be your own business. So what does that look like then? If your business is already up and running, fantastic. We'll use the information we already have from the existing business. If your business is brand new, we want to show you've taken steps, like you've incorporated the company, you've funded the business checking account, you have contracts with customers, you're very close to opening. The Immigration Service has started asking for 5-year business plans for all of these cases. It's not required under the law. We're not required to submit a business plan, but immigration wants to see them. And so I encourage all of my clients to complete a very professional, immigration-focused business plan that speaks to the things that immigration cares about for the future of your business, which is essentially it matters to the United States. So let's review before we go on to our next step. First, we've proven you're a person of either exceptional ability or with a postgraduate degree. And so often that looks like an MBA or something like that for entrepreneurs. Second, we've proven that you have a project either already existing in the United States or that will be starting soon, your own business. Now we have to show that your project is in the national interest of the country. And how do we do that? There are very specific things that we want to think about when we talk about how your entrepreneurial project will benefit the country. And USCIS recently has issued additional guidance explaining how an entrepreneur can show that their project is in the interest of the country. Because as you know, as somebody who is an entrepreneur, the work that you do is unique. It's different. It doesn't fit into the traditional job mold. And so you don't have the same evidence, the same documents, the same background, the same experience as a traditional job seeker. You run your own business, you create things. So how do we show your project is impactful to others? There are a number of ways. The first one that we like to think about is employment. Now, before I go on, I want to make a bit of a distinction here. Getting a national interest waiver case approved as an entrepreneur is not a guarantee just because you're a business owner. We have to show that your business in particular impacts the country beyond just your employees and yourself and your clients. We have to show some meaningful, important, outward reaching impact from your business on your community and or the country. We don't have to show that every single corner of the country has been touched by your business, but we have to show an impact in the United States outside of your particular focus, outside of your business, your clients, yourself. So what does that look like? Sometimes that looks like employment. If you are a business owner and you have opened a huge factory in an area of the country that was suffering economically, and because your factory is open there and the number of people you've been able to employ and the wages you've been able to offer, the economy in that local area is substantially different than before your company opened. That's a great case. We can show your impact to that community that needed outside investment, that needed additional help to support its economy, and that you've been able to provide them. Just employment of your employees is unlikely to be enough to win this kind of case. Even if you have 10, 20, 30, 40 employees, it's not going to be enough. We need to show because of the employment that you provide, you've impacted the community. And what's another way we can show impact and national importance in your entrepreneurial project? Well, sometimes entrepreneurs take on large investors and get funding from either accelerators or angel investors or other people who are in the business of investing in companies. Someone who is in the business of investing in companies and has looked at your business and said, this one's really worthwhile, I'm going to give them millions of dollars. That's a good indication that somebody who has experience in this thinks that you're your company is valuable and will contribute to society positively in some way. So that's another argument we can make there. Now, every investment is not going to count. This on its own is not going to count. These cases are not cookie cutter. We have to be really careful and creative when we craft our arguments, and you have to have a project that we present that contains these arguments. So we've talked about employment, we've talked about investment being an indication of national importance and merit of your project. Something else that's really helpful is government connections. If any of the work you do is connected to the US government, well, this is going to be a fantastic way to show that the government cares about it. Because the first thing I do when someone comes to me is say, what's your project? And then, okay, let's figure out what government entity has ever said anything about your project. So if you are involved in trade, let's get out the government websites related to trade. Let's see what policies are in place around the work that you do. Let's see what initiatives are in place. What has the government said is problematic that you might be solving? So any government interest is really, really, really helpful. So anytime the government has mentioned anything about the work that you do and the problem that you solve, that's going to really help us make this case. Together with that, we can go a step further and actually get letters or contacts or support from any sort of government entity, that's hugely, hugely helpful for this kind of case. So if your company has a relationship with a city government or a state government or federal agency of some sort, and you do work with them or for them in some way, well, that's going to be fantastic. If you are connected with government officials or government projects in some way, and those people can write letters in support of your application and your work inside the United States, that's going to be really beneficial, because government letters of support or interest are something that are specifically stated in the regulations as being helpful to prove a case. And then last but not least, we just want to think big picture. Why does your business matter to the country? And we have to have a theme. For all of my cases, I have a strategy that identifies very clearly in 1 or 2 sentences why this company matters to the country. You have to be able to convince someone that your work is important to the community, to the country, beyond just the few people who may interact with your particular business. And so while this case type is absolutely available to many more people than might initially think that would be available to them, it's not available to everybody. So let's review. Before we end today, let's review what we've talked about. As you guys might have noticed, I have taught in the past, so I like to review to go over things and make sure everybody's on the same page. So let's review. If you are an entrepreneur and you want to pursue your own green card in the United States through the EB2 National Interest Waiver process, we need to first prove that you either have an advanced degree or you're a person of extraordinary ability. Next, we have to identify the project, the forward-looking project in the United States that will support your application. For entrepreneurs, that usually means you already have an active working business that's in the United States and successful, or you have clear, concrete plans for a new business that you're about to start or have just started. Then we have to show how your project, and that for you as an entrepreneur is your business, is in the interest of the United States. We can do that by showing any number of ways in which your business impacts the community in a meaningful way outside of just a positive impact to your employees or your clients. And that can look like increased employment in an area that is economically disadvantaged. It can look like involvement in a critical government project. It can look like support from government agencies or any other number of things, but we have to have something. We have to have a real clear tie to the national interest and relate it back to your project. And then last but not least, what we haven't talked about so far, but I'm just going to touch on briefly, is that you have to be prepared to make your case successful, to make your project successful. To prove that you are prepared to make your project successful, we explain your background. And most entrepreneurs have a robust background of education, achievement, other companies, and similar things that we can show. Having letters of support from other people you've worked with, proof of success of past companies goes a long way to proving this aspect. I hope this has been very helpful. It was really enjoyable to talk to you guys today. I love sharing this information, trying to educate people. The things I want you to take away from this today are, It is possible to self-sponsor your own green card as an entrepreneur. To do so, you have to have a project, and that project has to be in the interest of the United States. And then you have to put together a really strong application to make sure you're successful. I would love to talk to you more about your particular project. Give me a call. The number's here below, 512-675-2945. See you soon.